talking about the UK situation, for instance, if you check, the UK border control says you do not need to take any COVID test or fill in a passenger locator form. This applies whether you are fully vaccinated or not. So why is the Ghanaian situation different? And should we be thinking about doing same? Let's get to speak to Kwame Sapon-Asiedu, who is a pharmacist based in the UK, as a CDD fellow. Kwame, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. Hello, Kwame. If you could please unmute your microphone so we can hear you. Okay, I think we'd have to try again and get in touch with Kwame Sapon-Asiedu so that he can share his thoughts. But there are some messages, Mama View. What are friends on Twitter saying, Raymond? Yes.
Okay, so Kenny Robson says it should be free. They gave it to Ghana for free. So why are they charging people for the test? Nanaya Sewa says this testing gets me upset and raged with this all day. I don't even know why. Mancha GH says, how do you even charge foreigners $150 even if it's a PCR test? Why are Ghanaians paying 350 cedi for a test that's about 250 cedi at LED, for example? So, I mean, you're saying that here, if you check other places in the country, we are doing it for a far lesser cost. Why is it being charged at a higher one? I guess it's all about making people richer quickly. And Nyavo John says, this government sees COVID as their fat, pregnant cash cow to milk. Do you remember the health minister vaccine purchased deal? What is going on at the airport is also another means to cash in. Hashtag Joy SMS. Interference from Samuel Dami. At its AK24. Reduce cost by 80%. I mean, he has a point to it. He says it should be reduced. Now, Atakosia says the UK, they have scrapped all travel restrictions that was put in place to curtail the virus from spreading. Because 86% of their population, they have received a second dose and 67% a booster. But for us, aside vaccine hesitancy, we don't even have a proper plan except the money they get from PCR tests. There's one from Ardalda too, maybe the last one. But just to say, we understand that about 50 million of our population have received at least a single dose. 50 million. But it doesn't mean, they say the number that's received double have been the 5 million or so. And that for the booster is way lower than that. Now, at Ardalda, the PCR test fee must be reduced. Around the world, the test charge is now about $10. Ghana is hard for everyone. Why can't the government see this? Government is only squeezing Ghanaians for private company to make money. It is really hard now. So that's those are some of the messages. It looks like generally three things: reduce it. Some are even demanding that you scrap it, and others are saying we don't see the reason for keeping it at the current rate anyway.
Okay, so let's get to speak to Kwame Sapon-Asiedu, who is a pharmacist based in the UK and a CDD fellow. Kwame, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you're doing very well this morning.
Thank you, Winston. Yes, I'm doing well. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Now, I mean, reading those tweets, some Ghanaians suggest, well, we should be scrapping all testing regimes at the Kotoka International Airport. They think that it's outlived its usefulness. Others are calling for a reduction. Let me get your view on this. Has it outlived its usefulness, what we currently have?
Thanks, and good morning to everybody. You see, to answer this question, you have to look at why testing happened in the first place. At the onset of COVID, there was a huge issue between infection, hospitalization, and deaths. There was a positive correlation that the larger the number of people who got infected, the larger the number of people who get hospitalized, the larger the number of people who run down health systems, and unfortunately, the larger the number of people who die. So there were put in place what we call restrictive measures to ensure that this link could be broken. However, restrictive measures in public health have never been shown to completely break that link because of human behavior. Human beings get lethargic and then they have to socialize because you have mental health issues coming in because they are staying at home and all that. So the point became, let's test and try and isolate and exclude from the general population people who test positive and treat them as quickly as possible. At the same time, that's where things like masks and social distance and all that. But all those things are antisocial behaviors.
Okay.
So while all that was going on, yes, I mean, restrictive measures are antisocial behaviors. Human beings are what you call cognitive animals, and we try to associate. So when you put those things in place, anyone who works in public health knows that they have a limit. And that was why at that point, everyone was talking about vaccines, because historically in health, vaccines are the only agents that have been shown to positively break the link between infection, hospitalization, and death.
Okay.
So the target was to get vaccines. When vaccines were obtained, the next target was how many people in any given population should be vaccinated to ensure that the virus is constrained. So what you are trying to do with physical restrictions, you are trying to do with what we call biological restrictions. So you are constraining the virus because a lot of people have antibodies and their immune responses are high, and their immune systems can recognize the virus and defeat it. So that was the next thing. So when the vaccines came, until you had gotten to what was called a herd immunity threshold, you couldn't open up fully. Because if you did, then the unvaccinated population were still at risk because that link hadn't been broken. The UK, if you remember about 3 months ago, when the UK started opening up rapidly, the WHO and the German health minister, I clearly remember the message, said what the UK was doing was crazy, but they can do it for one reason, because they've got vaccines.
Okay.
So even the Germans, who are the most mechanical of countries, accepted that the only reason why the UK was doing it was because they had vaccines. So what happened? The UK did a biological experiment to an extent, because when we opened up 3-4 months ago, there were days that infection rates got to about 80,000, 90,000 a day. People were getting infected. I'm quite sure you saw it. But the hospitalizations were nowhere near when we were getting 11, 12,000 infections a day at the height of the pandemic, when the first wave killed so many people in this country.
Sure.
That was the first sign that that link was being broken. So when the link was broken, it became unimportant to have these things in place, because the balance is between the economic implications of restrictive measures, which are antisocial and also have an impact on socioeconomic development and expansion of the economy, and the public health risk of death. No one makes that decision balancing the risk of you just getting infected against the risk of economic meltdown. No one makes that decision. And therefore, now that the UK knows that 86% of the population has had 2 doses, and in fact today, we are rolling out the 4th booster dose. So it's just been rolled out today. The portals have gone live today, because the strategy is to keep the antibody titers very, very high and to biologically constrain the virus.
Okay.
So with that, you don't even need an unvaccinated person to do any tests. And that's the only way the UK economy is going to open up, because inflation is running too high. It's targeted to get to about 8.6%. So the balance of public health risk against economic risk is far in favor of the economic risk. Now let me come to Ghana.
Okay.
When you bring that to Ghana, only about, they're saying 5, let's even say 8 million of the population of 30.8 are fully vaccinated. You have to bear in mind that because the vaccination, the immunity wanes after about 6-7 months, people who've had a first dose and a second dose need a booster, and that's why the boosters go on. You can do that to a point where, like with flu, it becomes like that you only vaccinate the at-risk population, because the general population has what we call inbuilt antibodies. In Ghana, the number of people vaccinated are not that high. They don't get to even about 25% of the population that's fully vaccinated. However, there's another inbuilt advantage, because if you remember at the outset of this pandemic, a lot of the research by WACB, by KCCR and all that pointed to the fact that our exposure rates were much higher than our reported cases.
Sure.
And therefore, there are people who have had wild exposure who also have antibodies, who are augmenting the immunity build of the general population. So the immunity build is not just coming from those who are fully vaccinated. The other thing that's happening is that some of the people who are fully vaccinated are also getting reinfected What happens is that when you get that attack, your body produces more antibodies because your body always has an ammunition backfill to try and attack the virus. So you realize that now a lot of people who are getting infected are getting milder infections, apart from the fact that the Omicron is not as, lethal as the other strains that we saw in the past.
Okay.
So if you put all these things together, is it really necessary to be testing at the airports?
Is it necessary? Tell
Yes
me.
and yes and no.
Okay, why
I
yes,
don't
why no?
believe. Yes, I don't believe that for fully vaccinated people, the PCR test entering Ghana is necessary. And for certain people, I don't believe having an antigen test at the port is necessary either.
Okay.
Because the data suggests that for a vaccinated person fully, even if they get infected, the virus only lasts up to 5 days. So you realize that even in the UK, the isolation period has been dropped to 5 days. And now it's even technically discretionary. So when you get infected, you can decide to do your lateral flow test. And the minute you test negative, you can start working out because you have antibodies to fight it. It's like having any disease that you have antibodies to, or having malaria. You stay at home. If you take your treatment and you feel okay, you can go out. So all these things are coming into play. I say no because you are putting extra costs on people who are coming to invest in the economy. The economy is tanking. We need a foreign direct investment. We need a tourism. If the people are fully vaccinated and they are going to come in and they are going to boost our economy, especially when the pound and the dollar are having their own ideas against our city, do you want them to bring in the forex to come and shore up our forex reserves and therefore slow down the depreciation? I would say yes. That was why I built the background of the socioeconomic against the public health balance.
Sure.
And therefore, I would say yes. So if you ask me, it should be for only unvaccinated people at the airport. And as much as possible, the cost should be dropped. Why do I say so? Even when it was introduced, a lot of us argued that $150 was on the high side. At that time, antigen tests were not as available as they are today. If you look at the global market prices, they have dropped from the $1.5, $1.7 that they were when they first came in and some of us were arguing to about 75p. Why are we, if we were charging $1.5 per pot at wholesale, $150, if it drops to 75p, I expect a 50% discount, especially when the city is having its own ideas against the dollar as well. So I look at all these things and I think, wait a minute, what do we want to do? Do we want to shore up the economy that has been battered by COVID? Or we want to enrich a few people? If we want to shore up the economy, we need to restructure the testing. I don't believe in totally taking it away. That I must state, because it still will serve a purpose for unvaccinated people and for people who are unvaccinated in our country because of high
but
vaccination hesitancy.
Kwame, the Ghana Health Service brought a scheme where if you were unvaccinated and were coming into Ghana, you'll be vaccinated. Shouldn't we be focusing on that more instead of testing people at, even if it's reduced, ECOWAS citizens $50, foreigners, non-ECOWAS citizens $150? Shouldn't you be considering vaccinating those who come into the country?
I'll say no to that and I'll explain.
Go ahead.
When you get your first dose, it takes 21 days for your optimum antibody levels to build and 7 to 14 days after your second dose. And that is why there's a gap between the dosing. And that gap can go up to about 6 months. Therefore, if you vaccinate someone at the airport and they are infected, they do not have an antibody buildup immediately to prevent them from infecting other people. So you don't get the benefit if you go through that approach. Secondly, after the second dose, the transmissibility, if someone is vaccinated, drops to just around 60%. So they still can transmit. If you put all these together, if there's a new variant that comes, that actually is more transmissible, we could just have a problem on our hands. And that is why I'm saying that the focus should be on excluding the unvaccinated people through testing if they are infected and increasing our vaccination coverage locally. For me, that is it. But as for the PCR test coming into the country, it outlived its usefulness, especially for vaccinated people.
All right, Kwame, thank you very much for joining us. We're grateful.
Thank you.
Right, so that's Kwame Sapon, who is a pharmacist based in the UK and also a CDD fellow. He says for PCR testing into the country, it's outlived its usefulness. However, he would say if unvaccinated persons are coming into the country, they should go through the antigen testing, but at a reduced cost. But if you're vaccinated, you don't have to go through testing again.
Yeah, it's a good point. It makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just do not know, except that, I mean, the operations at our ports, while it started off on a very good note, right from the involvement of the people doing the testing, all of that, it sent a signal to everybody that it reached a point we're not just looking at prudence. They were using public health reasons to make most of the decisions, whether good or bad.
The science.
Yes. I'm not so sure whether we are maintaining those, and we are not currently reviewing them. So, I mean, if there's a clarion call by the people who are, I think government's main job is to review it and come to the understanding that this is what I want to do for the people. If it's for their protection, we cannot negotiate or we cannot compromise on that. If it's something that can be done about not only cost, because the cost is still some way unacceptable, to be fair. And in all fairness, we think that the people who are doing the testing, they've recouped enough of the investment they made from the early stages that we were told they were compelled to do very early. We can now bring some relief to the people and get them at a smaller cost rather than removing the entire system from there. And again, as you said, we can also separate it. If there is evidence of going through the double vaccines and also having to get a booster, for example, I'm not too sure why we think that the testing is absolutely necessary. Except the testing, if we believe its only purpose is let us know who's gotten it and who's not gotten it.
So,
since the understanding is that you can still get COVID if you have taken the vaccine.
Yeah.
So we just want to know whether you've gotten it or not gotten it. That's basically, if that's the only reason why it's being done, I don't have a difficulty with it. But we should still discuss the testing and the cost for testing and not price it at the current rate, because we all agree, wherever you're coming from, there is a general difficulty, not only in Ghana, virtually everywhere else. So we can't be pretending that people coming from elsewhere are well off, and that they do not necessarily feel the pinch that's coming into the economy at every different point. Yeah.
So, as we wait for the finance minister to give us details of what strategies government is going to implement in terms of easing the economic burden, I think this is one area that we're also looking at. There's information that he's going to touch on the borders, the land borders. And we really do hope that something has been agreed in this area. We're not going to go back to the table and talk about it, because if we're using the science, if we're using the standards that other people are implementing, then we definitely should have thought about the charges and the tests, and we should be reducing it.
Well, so I'm just checking number of persons who've been vaccinated. And as of the 18th of March 2022, according to the Ghana Health Service, persons fully vaccinated are 5,050,369. Now, that represents 15.9% of the total population. If you look at persons who have received at least a dose, you have 8,991,580, and that represents 28.3% of the population. And persons receiving first dose booster. So, Raymond, for persons like you who've had a booster, that's 156,502. Look, I think at this point it's important we do one thing. For those who are vaccinated, fully vaccinated, as Kwame makes the point, they should come into this country without having to go through the extra burden or cost of having to pay for these. That's something we should, consider. 2, I think it's about time we opened our land borders. I think it's time. It's been closed for the past 2 years. It's time we opened our land borders. And I saw a documentary on another station, Broken Borders. Raymond, Mama V, people were coming into this country.
Oh, yeah, people are.
Recently, somebody called me and said he had returned from Nigeria via road. So I asked him, how did you do that? Because when it was suggested to me that we should take a trip to Nigeria by road, the first thing I said about our land borders are closed. Why would you want to do that? Let us open the land borders too. And as for the PCR testing, we should do away with that also. The PCR testing requiring entry into the country. Finally, I think that I am of the view that we should reduce the cost of antigen testing at the Kotoka International Airport. There is no justification for $150 for non-ECOWAS citizens. There is no justification for $50 for ECOWAS citizens. That should be reduced to about, say, $20. Why do we want to charge people $150 just to do antigen testing? There's no PCR, antigen. Finally, it's important we, go on a vaccination drive. We know there's been challenges. A lot of Ghanaians some Ghanaians not willing to take the vaccines. But look, that means the Ghana Health Service. Yes, still, there's some Ghanaians who don't want to take the vaccines. But that also means that the Ghana Health Service itself has a lot more work to do in getting people to appreciate the need to have these vaccines. Okay, because look, I have been vaccinated fully and I've had a booster. You have, Raymond, been vaccinated. Mama, you've also had your vaccines.
Yeah.
So here in this building, we've gone for the vaccines and I've gone for our boosters. We are here with you. And that's why it's important, all the conspiracy theories. Let's get over that.
Yeah. So, we're
Perhaps
happy
if we get to understand beyond, because frankly, I do not get the point why anybody would refuse it personally. But maybe they have some extraordinary reason why they would not like to take it. I actually think there are a lot more people who are willing to take this. Now we should move it from concentrating at the various health facilities to taking it to the homes of the people. We know where they are. We know how to get them. We know that we had a plan of taking the other, what's the name of it? The ones for polio and the other ones to the homes and to schools and to other specific areas. I think that should be our next level. Take it to the people and make it easier for them to access it so that they can take it. If all of these things are removed, because it's in our collective interest, many of us get the vaccination. For example, if we mount it in front of churches after Sunday service, and the pastor leads the service and tells everybody in the church that right from here, make sure you go and get your vaccination, I am so convinced many people will be willing and be interested in getting it. At the point in the UK, there were some pubs that were giving free beer for the vaccination actually. So if you're willing to take it just before you enter, you take it and you get a beer and move on. We should now put in incentives if we believe this is something that we intend to roll out, because wasting the vaccine listen, we are pretending. Not long ago, barely 6 months or 8 months ago, we're crying all over the place that we couldn't get vaccines into the country. We're scared. We are afraid. We feared the implications of not having these vaccines in the country and helping us out. If our recovery as a state was inextricably intertwined with getting more vaccines and getting people to go out there and do the jobs, removing all of the restrictions and relaxing them, and the countries that have done so successfully did it on the back of having more vaccination happening. So whether we like it or not, we need some level of vaccination to be able to feel free and do the things that we used to do previously. Yeah. So refusing to get it is actually stifling that progress, actually.
Yeah. So I was just, going to say that we're happy to talk about the UK, but there are 49.3 million people who are fully vaccinated. Yeah. 73.3% of population fully vaccinated. Yeah. So we can cite them and talk about the fact that
they have removed restrictions.
Exactly.
They are doing this and that. Yeah. But we should equally be concerned about the level of vaccination in the country. Yeah. Whether our people are interested in getting at the rate that they should get it.
We have 15.9% of the population fully vaccinated. 15.9%.
Just about half of our population.
15.
Not good.
5, not even 50.
No. You mean 5 million.
5
Fully
million.
vaccination.
Full vaccination is 5 million.
Yes.
That's
15 is the
15%.
one.
Yeah, that's it. 15,
That's a
no,
percentage.
Okay, yeah.
of our population fully
Okay.
vaccinated. And that's not encouraging.
Yeah.
15%. is
And
not
you're comparing
encouraging
that to
at all.
73.3%.
86% and
Yeah.
all of that in other jurisdictions. Okay, so it tells you that we have a lot of work to do. Now, initially we thought of vaccinating 20 million based on the data to achieve herd immunity. Now it's been reviewed to 22 million because we've now been told that persons aged between 15 and 18 can also take the vaccine. And so if you have just 5 million people fully vaccinated and 8 million on a dose, it means also there's work to do.
15 and 18, a huge
5
chunk of
and
them.
18. I mean,
Yeah,
15
yeah.
and 18, yeah.
It will be in senior high schools by
Exactly.
now. Take it to the schools. Make sure that before the day ends, you can get a whole class, a whole block
yeah.
getting
Yeah.
the vaccine actually.
So, I mean, there's a lot of work we have to do, and I mean, all of us would have to play a role. But I think that, to be very honest, it looks like we've gone to sleep because again, the
numbers are
very
low.
Yeah.
So 67 active cases, none severe when I checked this morning.
But I know the funny part, it's only when we start recording these extremely low numbers that all the nice things come in, because Easter is ahead of us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all the festivities that mostly become the super spreaders are ahead of us. And of course, we have concerts that are happening that people are pretending are not happening. We know that nightclubs are opening, people are in there and going up and down. If we can mention some of them, we know they are opening. You know.
Oh,
it's just that-
but everything is back to
yeah.
how it used
We
to
are
be,
just
oh.
your expression. How do you call it?
I mean, Kwewo is going
The
to happen.
Adanko one.
People are-
Yes.
People
So we
are
are just
advertising.
basically pretending that we don't know that all of these things, that restrictions are still
Yeah,
not really enforced anyway. Perhaps the only thing we mentioned, which we insist on letting it be the case, is to be fair, when you walk out there, how many people are still wearing the mask?
No.
People who have not been
No.
vaccinated still not wearing the mask.
I went to a mobile money vendor yesterday, a very small space. There are quite a number of people in the shop, and they were not wearing the mask. I was
Yeah.
just wondering. I was the only person wearing the mask, trying to keep a distance.
Yeah.
And I was wondering.
And these people are
okay,
even not in
I
close
am
to you.
abnormal.
Yeah. So at the core of it, to be fair, we need to get back on the drive of vaccination. And I think people are really fed up with some of these restrictions. And we realize that at some point in time, people will really be, I'm tired of all of these.
Yeah.
That's why when we do more vaccination, we'll get to the point where we will remove all of them. But it's as if we are picking too early and pretending to have done the vaccination at the levels have done, and insisting deep within our heads that let's remove the restrictions
Yeah.
on our own.
You know,
with government connivance. So it's almost like, I've heard people even say, COVID has been killed by the Russian Ukraine war.
Yeah.
Really?
People
Yeah.
say
People
that a
say
lot.
that.
It has killed everyone too.
No,
they
because
say that,
who is
nobody's
reporting on
talking about it
COVID?
again. So
Everybody's talking about Russia, Ukraine.
yes.
Internationally.
But
yeah.
it's only when we lose guard, we let down our guard, that we get to the point where we have to come back and be asking people. And when we lose loved ones, we lose very prominent and privileged people.
Yeah.
That's when we actually get back on the
But
track.
you
But why
know-
should we wait for lives to be lost before we get on that table again?
Raymond, I think government should add this to its strategy as well, because you see, we blame COVID for where we are today. We've blamed COVID
Yeah.
heavily. Imagine
But it
if
looks like we are
if
not
there's
so
an
interested in the recovery path.
That's the thing.
We're basically moved on anyway.
Yeah, and we shouldn't. We should get a lot of people to get the vaccine so
Yeah.
that we can go back to what we used to do and open up, and then we can get investments and get out of where we are.
With all due respect, I mean, I know that some people have their own reasons. Some of you are citing religious reasons for not taking the vaccine. Some are purely superstitious. But with all due respect, if this is the only contribution you make to our collective recovery, I think it impinges on you, and it's patriotic for you to do so.
Exactly.
If it's the only contribution you think you can make to us getting back on track and getting our economy back the way it's supposed to be happening. And let's not forget, the survey is still there. The GSS survey, 2/3 of the population, which may include you, say that they have not recovered their income levels pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID, that's
So
true.
your continual insistence on not taking the vaccine
Yeah.
is preventing us from recovering at the rate that we should recover,
It's
and
hurting
preventing these
all of
people
us.
from also getting their income back to the levels they're supposed to be, and making all of us the sufferers at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, listen, get the right assist for the perfect hat trick when you sign up for the ABSA Assure account. Enjoy a wide range of banking services, enjoy personal accident insurance, and finally enjoy travel insurance, all at a monthly flat rate. So visit the nearest ABSA branch to sign up now for the ABSA Assure account. Terms and conditions apply. That's Africanacity. That's ABSA. ABSA is the official African banking partner of the Premier League. Visit absa.com.gh/premier-league for further details.
An Agritech West Africa exhibition endorsed by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture of Ghana with support from the Ghana National Chamber of Agribusiness, FAGE, Farm Organization Network, West African Agriculture Chamber, Food and Beverage Association of Ghana, CropLife, and Agric Today, sponsored by UPL Cali Ghana, will be happening from the 23rd to 25th of March 2022 at the Accra International Conference Center. Now, the event covers the entire value chain of agriculture, food, processing, packaging, with exhibitors from India, Egypt, South Africa, Ghana, and Europe looking forward to meeting with Ghanaian partners in the agribusiness, farming and food processing and distribution business. Block your calendar to meet your partners in Agritech West Africa from the 23rd to the 25th of March 2022 at the Accra International Conference Center.
Look, with prices of everything going up, Sethi Realty is offering discounts of up to 45% on their dwelling homes. Prices are starting from as low as 350,000 Ghana 350,000 Ghana cedis, not USD. Yes, you heard right. It's 350 Ghana cedis, 350,000 Ghana cedis for a price of a home located in Tema Community 26 behind the Palace Shopping Mall. So if you're looking for an investment opportunity with huge returns, then worry no more. Contact Sethi Realty on 055 143 5555 or 055 143 8888. Visit them at nyamidiagh.com. Remember, terms and conditions apply as prices are subject to change. Hurry, because only limited units available. Sethi Realty, the future of living. And the economists will tell you that this is a good time. You know, when things are hard like this, when everybody is feeling it, this is the time to make good investment because you get good returns on it. Yeah.
Well, not a bad time to make investments if you have the funds. Why not? But give your eyes the best attention and care it deserves this year. Don't play with your eyes, crowd. Visit Robert and Sons Optical at Adenta, Weija, Dabraka, Osu, Dankwa Circle, Tema, East Legon, Kumasi, and their ultra-modern Kufridia branch for comprehensive eye care and 100% original and unbeatable products for both children and adults. Also visit us for the state-of-the-art optical coherence tomography testing service, OCT, or retina damage detection scan. Robert & Sons Optical provides service to members under all major private insurance schemes. Call us on 0501 519 or 0302 222 601 for more information, or visit our online shop robertsandsunoptical.com and on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Robert N. Sun Limited. Robert & Sons, seeing is believing. Visit Robert and Sons Optical.
I've got an invitation to all of you. Enjoy a golden trip to South Africa. Now, what better way to make the most of your Easter break than with a vacation to the southern tip of Africa? South Africa invites you to the sunny shores to rediscover yourself while exploring the breathtakingly rich landscapes. Visit South Africa means you get to experience their significant climate, diverse range of foods, world-class beaches, as well as the many tourist sites. Come journey with us for an unforgettable golden experience. Listen, on COVID regulations, travelers must provide a negative PCR COVID-19 test that is no older than 72 hours before entering South Africa. And travelers arriving by flight are advised to organize transport, preferably hotel or accommodation shuttles or even Ubers. Most accommodation establishments have free Wi-Fi for their guests. However, it is advisable to find accommodation with Wi-Fi in order to stay connected. So there's so much more you can do in South Africa. Go to southafrica.net to find out more on these packages.
Great, so much you can do in South Africa. But finally on the COVID issue, you know that here even at the Multimedia Group, as part of our corporate social responsibility, we got persons from the Ghana Health Service to actually come here and vaccinate Ghanaians. We did that.
Yes, we did. We even extended the period
Exactly.
by popular request.
And so please, I'm sure we'll do something very soon again. Come, I mean, if you've not been vaccinated, please get the vaccine. It won't hurt, okay? But still to come here on the Super Morning Show, of course, the economy takes center stage in public discourse again. And this time following the cabinet retreat or meeting from the 17th to the 20th of March 2022. What are those plans that the finance minister is expected to announce to Ghanaians in the course of the week following consultations with stakeholders? That and more here on the Super Morning Show.
Coffee in your cup and Joy on the set. The Super Morning Show is always the best bet on Joy 99.7